Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 299, Drinking in Response to Extreme Stress. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. Whew, it has been a week, my friends. So I'm not sure if you heard about this or not, but I live in North Carolina, and Western North Carolina and parts of Tennessee and Florida all got hit with the Hurricane Helene last week. It actually happened on Friday, not even a week ago. And it left Western North Carolina, along with parts of Florida and Eastern Tennessee, completely devastated. They had tragic levels of flooding, basically, and whole mountain towns have been wiped out. Like homes floated away, businesses, downtown areas has just completely wiped out. They're still trying to account for everybody, and they don't have cell service everywhere. Big parts of the main highways and roads that led into these towns, including Asheville, which is the biggest town in Western North Carolina, were wiped away. So they were completely isolated and still feels very isolated for a lot of them there. They have returned power to less than half of over 1 million people. Like, it's really bad. So that feels very close to home to me. It's about 2 hours from here. We had friends staying with us that weekend that lived in Asheville because their child is a student at NC State in Raleigh. So they were planning on being here and they got out ahead of the storm, but they couldn't go home. So they were staying with us for a while. And, it's just awful. And, that on top of the presidential election and the tense and the stress that everybody feels, unless you're completely unplugged from news, doesn't matter what side you're on, you're feeling that stress and that conflict. And depending on what's going on in your family life right now, it just feels very heavy and very stressful. I have had a knot in my stomach for 7 days, feeling a lot of anxiety and stress about a bunch of things. I was just at my kid's school this morning because he's being bullied, and they have to change his schedule to get him away from some not very nice middle schoolers. And so it just feels a lot for me. And, I had another idea of a podcast episode for today that will probably be for next week, but I felt like I needed to address what is happening right now for a lot of people. And I just want you to know that no matter what is happening in your life, right, that drinking in response to extreme stress is never a good idea. It doesn't have to be a solution. So I've been seeing people post on social media that like with the debates and things like that they just can't handle it. And so that they need to go get some hard alcohol to like bring themselves down. And yeah, that's a solution, right? Like, I'm not going to, lie and say that that's not helpful sometimes. I certainly used that as a tool for when I was feeling extreme stress in the past. But since I've learned other ways to cope with extreme stress or extreme circumstances, I just want to offer to you that it's not the healthiest way to cope. It is an option. And it did help me in those times because I didn't know any different. I didn't know that there was an option to accept those feelings and work with those feelings and do other things that actually helped versus drinking. But if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to know that there are other ways to cope. And so that's what we're going to talk about this podcast. So I think it's important to first acknowledge how you're feeling. Do you have a tight ball of knots in your stomach? Are you feeling extreme stress right now? If you're not, that's amazing. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it. Okay. If you're not feeling that, just listen to this podcast in the future or now for when you are faced with extreme stress in the future, because we all will. Like, we all get to face these things in life, right? Unexpected tragic events, death, things going wrong in our families, right? Stuff that's happening in our country that we don't agree with. All of that we get to face because we're alive and we're present, right? And so to think that you can get through life without extreme stress is false. And so I want to give you some alternative ways to be with your feelings and deal with extreme stress that can be helpful today, right now, in whatever is happening. If you find yourself feeling this way, I want to offer some tips, okay? So tip number one is just to name how you feel. Just name it right now. How are you feeling? And just name it. Write it down. Take note of it. Where do you feel this in your body? Name it. Describe it to yourself. Breathe into that area in your body. Okay, this actually helps your nervous system regulate. Deep breathing, deep cleansing breaths relieves and calms your nervous system. It's an immediate way to help feel less stress and less anxious. Okay, so you have that within your power any time of the day is to engage with your breath and take long, deep breaths. Okay, so that's tip number one. Name how you feel, describe how it feels in your body, and then breathe. Use your breath for a minute or two and breathe into that area. The other way to deal with this is to actually look at the problems that you're stressed about. Okay. And then let's just make some small decisions on what you can do about it. Because a lot of times this stress is like, what can I do? What can I do? And we ruminate and we go down paths and we can get stuck in not taking action, but really looking at all the avenues that we could go, right? But we're not really doing anything. So it's really helpful for you actually to do something if it's something that you can do. So for me, and what's happening in Western North Carolina with the hurricane is I'm actually, I had just planned a 1-day Sober October retreat for 6 women in my town of Chapel Hill, North Carolina on October 21st. And I decided to do this before this hurricane happened. And so after the hurricane happened, after I what can I do? What can I do? I decided to donate all of the proceeds from this 1-day retreat to efforts in Western North Carolina. And that makes me feel like I'm doing something. Okay. So I'm sharing that on my socials. That's getting a lot of awareness, right? Even if people don't come to the retreat, they're aware that this issue is happening in Western North Carolina, and they can look into donating in other ways. And just because I posted that on the socials, 2 people donated. One person sponsored a spot for somebody to come so that they could have that gift for themselves to help them and give back to the community. And then another person gave a large several $100 donation, and that got donated right away to an agency that I know and trust, and we're boots on the ground getting help to real people today. So that feels really good. So those are things that I'm doing that I can control, right? I can financially contribute. So I kind of decide how much I want to contribute. And then I've been researching and deciding on the organizations in which I want to contribute. So that's my decision in actually doing something. Okay. And then from there, I can share stories. I can reshare posts on social media. I can keep talking about it. I'm talking about it on this podcast. So for me, I'm using my voice and my followers to help spread the word about different organizations and ways that you can help. And that makes me feel less stressed that I'm actually doing something and not just worrying about it. Okay, so that's what I would invite you to do. Whatever the big stressful thing is, what is it that you can do, and focus on that and less on what you can't control. And when you do that, it brings your stress level down. Okay. And then the other thing is just taking really good care of yourself, right? So making sure that you're drinking enough water and you're moving your body and you are connecting with people. I can't tell you how comforting it is to know that so many people are going through terrible things right now and stressful things, and that I have friends and family that I can talk about this with, including this podcast and you all. I'm sharing this. It helps to be able to share how you feel. And when we do that, we get more connected with each other. And when you're more connected with each other, it makes you feel less alone. And that's always a good thing. We're not alone. We are all connected. And it's really important to talk and be in community during situations like this. So figure out what that looks like for you. Is it that you need to go volunteer somewhere in person? Is it that you want to financially donate? Do you want to start an online group? Like, what is it for your situation that would feel good for you? And then do those things. And then the self-care, going back to the self-care thing. And a lot of people think we don't, in extreme situations, like there's no time for self-care. And I just want to challenge that, because that is exactly when you need to take care of yourself so that you can be in the game for the long haul. Because a lot of these sort of extreme situations, it's not going to be changing any time soon. It's not like a 24-hour period and this all goes away and then we can go back to whatever. Like we have to be healthy and take care of ourselves so we can be dealing with this for the long haul and helping as many people as we can. So taking care of yourself should be a priority. Okay, because nobody's going to be helped by you if you're worn out and burnt out and over drinking every night. Okay, so making sure you're drinking enough water. I know it's like I talk about water all the time, but whenever I'm feeling tight or anxious or stressed, some ice cold water, that also just like gives me a break and to focus on something. And it helps relieve my stress and can kind of like calm that temperature down internally. And it feels good to stay hydrated. You don't feel as hungry and tired when you are keeping yourself very well hydrated. Okay, so drinking enough water and then moving your body. So even if you have to break it up, maybe 2 15-minute walks a day, if that's all you can fit in, do that. Undistracted. So ideally without listening to something, but just like moving your body, connecting with nature outside and breathing and letting your mind, focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on and kind of work some things out without having distractions like podcasts and books and things. I love that you guys walk and listen to the podcast, but sometimes it's really helpful for you to unplug and connect with your body and your breath and your own self while you're moving it. And so I recommend that, if you can do that 2 15-minute chunks, that's great to start with. If you can do more, obviously more can be even better. And then having good, healthy food on hand, like think about, going and getting stocked up. If you're too stressed and overwhelmed to cook or anything like that, go to Costco. All the major grocery stores have pre-made meals that you can buy and just throw in the oven. If you don't feel like cooking, that's probably the most affordable way if you can't cook. And then, asking for help, right? Like if depending on what your extreme stress is, maybe you could ask for a meal train or somebody to help you with meals in your family or friends or something like that. Asking for help around that can be hugely helpful if you need to get your groceries delivered, all of this stuff. And I do recognize, like talking about this, I'm thinking about people in Western North Carolina where none of this is an option, like they can't even go outside and walk. They can't get things delivered. They can't go to the grocery store. They don't have electricity, right? And so I just want to reference, like, this is advice for people that aren't in that extreme situation, to be taking care of themselves if that's an option for you. And just remember, when you are extremely stressed or you're in an extreme situation, you're supposed to be feeling how you're feeling. Your system is trying to alert you to something that you should be aware of. Okay. And we don't actually want to numb that away, because when we numb that away, we don't figure things out. We don't have solutions to whatever it is that is stressful, right? So I actually want to be on alert around things because I want to be in action. I want to feel this, so I actually am motivated to do something. And that's what we have to be right now. There's all sorts of things that we can do, but if we numb ourselves, we can like put our head in the sand and not make any changes that need to be made, right? So maybe the extreme stress is, you're in a difficult relationship and you need to get out of that. We want to not numb ourselves through that, right? Maybe your kids are in trouble, right? And that feels really difficult. We want to feel that so that we can help them and come up with solutions with a clear mind that would help them navigate whatever that situation is. I want to stay clear and focused because I want to be helpful for my lovely, amazing North Carolina neighbors that are needing people to help them right now. I don't want to numb out and escape that, because when I numb out and escape that, I'm not helpful. And so just remember, our feelings right now, no matter what they are valid and they're important. And if you can learn how to be with those feelings and accept those feelings and not judge them or not think of them as a problem or something that you can't handle, then you don't need, if you can believe that and work on that, you won't need to seek an escape route from them. And then there's also ways to escape, and it could be healthier ways. So I just downloaded Ina Garten's memoir. Ina Garten is the creator of Barefoot Contessa. She was a big Food Network star. I loved her. I learned how to cook a lot from watching her way back when the Food Network started, when I was in my early 20s. Absolutely adore that woman. So I downloaded her book to give me something a little bit lighter to listen to, like something fun, something different than like self-help or, scrolling and watching tragic news all the time, right? So that is a good way to like help me feel better. That is, I don't think a buffering way, but it can be a good distraction. You might find like a lighthearted comedy series on Netflix to distract yourself with. That's okay, right? So you don't need to just sit with your discomfort constantly, but you can find alternative ways of giving yourself a break that doesn't include numbing out with a toxic substance like alcohol. Okay, so TV shows, movies, books, podcasts, games, doing fun projects with your kids, something like that, that is a fun distraction that doesn't have like a net negative side effect for you and your mental health. Okay, so think about some of those things that you could add in that would give you a break from thinking about the extreme stressful situation that you might or may not be in. And then just remember that you're human and you're not perfect. And even if you do take action from extreme stress, like drinking or eating or something like that, you don't really want to be doing, try to be really gentle on yourself. Just remember that when we are in extreme stress, that our programming literally is to find comfort, to avoid pain, and to save energy. So if you've drank in the past because of this, then it would make sense that you go to your old patterns. And so just recognize that and be gentle with yourself during this time and just keep working on it. Keep reminding yourself there's other ways that I can manage this. Learn from it, get yourself stocked up with alternatives to alcohol, get all the nice bubbly waters and drinks and mocktails and whatever, so that you have better choices right on hand when you are feeling that you can go to that's not alcohol. And also, I just want to add that a lot of times people come to me because they had extreme stress or a circumstance in their life years ago that they started drinking in response to. And that's where a lot of the problem starts. And so you're just re-engaging with a part of the brain that, again, seeks pleasure, avoids pain, saving energy. And when you put alcohol as a solution, when you're feeling extreme stress around a circumstance, you're just reinforcing that behavior in the future. So sometimes that can be motivating for people, like recognizing, okay, if I drink in response to this is just going to make it harder for me in the future. That can be a motivator for people not to get into that cycle. I can't tell you how many people are in my programs now because of how they drank in response to COVID. That was another extreme, collective traumatic experience that people responded to with drinking. And it's hard to walk out of if you start that process. So it's worth it to kind of like think about, okay, is this extreme stress going to be changing anytime soon? Might not be. You might have to be with this for a while. And if that's the case, consider taking alcohol off the table completely. And just like saying, you know what, I'm going to do sober October. And for 30 days, I'm just not going to drink and I'm going to be with this and I'm going to stay clear headed so I can stay alert and aware. and navigate this in the best possible way that I can. And alcohol in that mix is muddying the waters. And I don't need to undo that problem when this is over as well. Okay. So that would be a recommendation as well, is just deciding to take alcohol off the table completely. And sometimes deciding to do that is doing yourself a favor. So you don't also have to make the decision around alcohol and planning your drinks and whatnot. So if you are in a live AF or in one of my coaching programs, if that is kind of I feel like I'm in this extreme stressful situation right now, yeah, it'd be better if I just took alcohol off the table. You still want to make your drink plan, but just put 0 drinks on it and be very intentional, right? And just decide I am not responding to this situation with alcohol at all. And so I'm just putting it on the side burner for now is very helpful, because it's a lot to then, if you do have drinks planned, to you're still drinking in response to your feelings. And that's not something that we recommend, because when you drink in response to your feelings, it just is like throwing gasoline on the fire for your desire for alcohol. And so if you're in an extremely stressful situation and you're still planning drinks, you're still feeding that beast, and you're not becoming as emotionally unattached to alcohol as you would like. So think about and consider putting it on the side table for now. And once this thing passes, you can come back to it and look at it and evaluate how you want to use it going forward. And all that to say, my friends, my thoughts are with all of you. I love you. And this is life, right? We're in it together. This is real. And no matter what is happening for you, you can be strong and do this and choose yourself and focus on what you can do, and focusing on what you can do as far as your health, drinking your water, getting your movement in, and taking care of yourself can be the thing that gets you out of focusing on just the extreme stressful situation. So having your plan written out for yourself every day, 3 things that you can track towards for yourself, that'll make you feel good at the end of the day that at least you're doing something, right? Decide if you are able to contribute to the stressful situation. If it's monetarily, volunteering, something like that will also help you feel like you're doing something. And then you just focus on that instead of all of the other details around the stressful situation that you can't control. You can focus on you and what you can decide to do in this moment. And I'm thinking about you all. And I love you. And I can't wait to come back to next week and have episode 300. 300 episodes of the Stop Overdrinking and Start Living podcast. It's a lot. 300 episodes every week, 300 weeks of me showing up and sharing and helping you all navigate your relationship with alcohol and navigating difficult situations in your life. It is absolutely an honor that you come back and you listen to this podcast week after week and you share with me how it helps you. And it helps me too, to be able to be a resource for you and sharing what I know and how we navigate all of this together. So for the 300th episode, I would love it if you would leave me a review on iTunes. If you want to leave me a 5-star review on iTunes, I would be forever grateful. And if you don't want to leave me a 5-star review, you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to leave me a 5-star review, I would love to hear how this podcast has helped you drink less, navigate difficult situations in your life. All you have to do, if you're listening on your phone, is you scroll to the bottom and you tap on leave a review, and then you write a sentiment there and click on that 5-star and share. And the more reviews I get, the more people see the podcast, it pops up in the ratings and things. And then the more people I can reach and the more people I can help. And I'm forever grateful for you. And I'll see you next week for the 300th episode. We'll talk soon. I want you to check out AngelaMascenik.com/AliveAF. You know what it's like to have a desire to cut back on your drinking, right? You start to read books, listen to podcasts, try things, but you might not be able to yet put all the pieces and suggestions together in a way that actually makes sense and works for you. You might struggle with beating yourself up after an overdrink. You might get frustrated with yourself when you take 2 steps forward and then another 2 steps back, and get overwhelmed with what's right and wrong about your relationship with alcohol. Your friends tell you that you should be able to have just 1 drink, and it isn't a big deal. You might be white-knuckling through urges and resisting instead of peacefully processing them. And you might struggle with your identity as someone who has enjoyed having a lot of wine or alcohol in your life. It's around you all the time. It's what you do and who you are. Well, after 5 years of successfully coaching hundreds of women through these struggles, I have created the Alive AF membership, where women like you can learn the basics on what it takes to cut back and reach your goals with alcohol, whether it is to just drink less or totally quit. And when you join, you will get the exact framework I used to change my own relationship with alcohol and still use today, that has led me to be alcohol-free for over 5 years. You're going to get access to my resources, videos, and worksheets that have been proven to change and reduce how much you drink. Every day you can ask questions, share your obstacles, and get coaching and direct support on the challenges you will face with love and no judgment. Also, you will get immediate access to workshops like uncovering your alcohol identity and changing it, how to say no to things that don't support your new identity or life or goals, aka boundaries. A workshop called Creating Emotional Agency, and another one, How to Manage Your Mind to Succeed at Your Goals, and more. Every month we have a brand new workshop. These workshops are filled with step-by-step prompts and instruction to help you create the exact relationship with alcohol that is best for you. My mission and vision for Alive AF is to be a hub of support and resources for women to come and learn how to do what is best for them and becoming more alive in the process. When you join, you're going to learn how to take care of yourself better, how to feel good and become more alive and go after the life that you really want. I want this membership to be affordable and an easy solution where you can get all the help you need in one simple place whenever you need it. So, no need to go read another book, find a new podcast, attend a free webinar, or go down the path of piecemealing it all together. Join Alive AF and have it all there in one place for you anytime you need it. So, go to angelamascenik.com/AliveAF and enrollment is open right now. See you inside.